everyone. My name is Kelly Cohen, and I am the director of JumpSpark. We are so excited that you have joined us this evening, jumped on the bus with us to learn about UVA, the University of Virginia. JumpSpark drives innovation and teen programming out of the Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta and is one of the 10 communities in the Jewish Teen Education and Engagement Funder Collaborative. We are in our fourth week of the road trip right now. I hope that you have joined us for other sessions. We've had about 7,000 people visit our website since we started this, and we've had about 800, maybe 900 people join us on these sessions. If you have missed anything, please know that you can go to our website, roadtriptocollege.org, and there you can find links to our social media, to our YouTube channel, where all of our webinars and information sessions are stored, and you can create your own road trip there. Again, we are so excited that you have joined us tonight, and hope that you are enjoying your journey on the road with us. With that being said, I am very excited to introduce our panelists tonight from the University of Virginia. We have Paige Simonek from Hillel, Annie Weinberg from Hillel, Janine Lalonde from the Office of Admissions, Ariel Arbib, who is a student, and Gabby Postner, who is also a student, who has very wonderfully been doing our Instagram takeover all day on JumpSpark ATL. So as we are going through this, if you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A on your Zoom, and I will pop back up at the end to help facilitate our question and answer. So with that being said, I am going to hand it off to Janine right now. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Hi, everyone. I'm Janine Lalonde. I am Associate Dean of Admission at University of Virginia, and I have about 15 minutes to share a brief overview of the admission process at UVA. And just so that you get a little bit of a lay of the land, this picture here is a shot of the main part of the university. When UVA first opened, it was just that center lawn area, but we've grown quite a bit over the years, and I'm going to show you a little bit about academic options, but hopefully our students will also be able to tell you a little bit more about how much student life has kind of grown and evolved over the years, because obviously it was a little quiet when things first got started at UVA. And you can obviously look up statistics online, but I just want to highlight a few that often come up. We are considered a medium-sized public institution with 17,000 undergraduate students. We do have a ratio that we maintain between Virginia residents and out-of-state students, which I'll talk about a little bit more during the admission part. But I also want you to know that we, along with having a lot of students, have a lot of faculty members. So with 3,200 faculty members, it means that our student-to-faculty ratio is 14:1, which is pretty much in line with schools of many different sizes these days. And most of our classes are seminar style, which you can see on the bottom left there. Now, when you come to UVA, you apply using the Common Application, which I'm sure you've heard of. It's an application that's shared by about 800 or so colleges around the world now. But when you apply to UVA, you pick a school or college from the left side of this screen. So there are 8 schools and colleges overall, but you pick from the ones on the left, knowing that later on you can move around a little bit. So those are the College of Arts and Sciences. That's the big one. That's about 2/3 of the student body at UVA. If you look at lists of majors and you feel like there is no way you could pick something, you will feel right at home in the college. You don't have to declare a major in the College of Arts and Sciences for 2 years. So your first few semesters are spent exploring. And even if you think you know what you want to study, we want you to be open to your mind evolving a little bit on that, because obviously you don't have access to all the subjects that we teach, and you're making some decisions right now based on a limited experience. So we want to give you a little time before you have to make any kind of commitment. The other choices on that left-hand side are obviously a little bit more specialized, the Schools of Engineering, Architecture, and Nursing, and then our kinesiology program. They're obviously for people who have slightly more direction when they're applying, but you're still not making a permanent decision. In fact, in engineering and architecture, the first year is kind of a foundation year. It's designed so that you get to be exposed to different options before you select a major at the end of the year. And inevitably, there's going to be a student who realizes during that first year that they are not supposed to be an architect, or they're not supposed to be in engineering, and their credit is general enough that they can move over to the College of Arts and Sciences with it, and they still have a year before they have to declare a major. The kinesiology group, the one at the bottom, that is the only group of students that come to UVA with a major, and there are usually about 50 of them in a class of 3,800. So in 3,800 students in the first year class, 50 of them are declared in a major. Everyone else is undeclared. And then once you get to UVA, you can start thinking about the schools on the right-hand side. We call them upper division. You get your whole person education before you move into the specialty areas. The first one is the McIntire School of Commerce. That's our business school. You're gonna find that every school has lingo, and now we're getting into some of ours. So we say commerce instead of business for undergraduate students. And they have a bachelor's degree, they have a minor that's open to everyone, and they have accelerated master's programs as well. There's the School of Education and Human Development, Leadership and Public Policy, and then the brand new School of Data Science, which has been a master's program for years, but they are currently developing a minor for undergraduate students, and a major will be coming along shortly. So if you look at these and you can't remember anything I just said, the takeaway is there are lots of choices. You're not supposed to have it all figured out when you're applying. You make the choice of where you think you'll be jumping off from, knowing that things can change. And there are people that'll help you understand your options when you get there. Now, when it comes to reviewing the application, the first thing we look at is your high school profile and your transcript. These things go together. And a lot of people know what a transcript is, but they don't always know what a high school profile is. Your counselor puts together a high school profile and sends it to every college that you apply to along with your transcript. And the high school profile is how admission officers calibrate to read the file in front of them. So every school is a little bit different when it comes to courses that are offered and practices. So we have to make adjustments based on what's allowed at your school. So your profile will go over the hierarchy of the curriculum. Who's allowed to take what kind of classes? When are students typically allowed to take more advanced options? They'll explain the methodology for grading, which obviously in Georgia is standardized, but it's not standardized around the country, right? And also they'll explain the methodology for calculating any of the statistics that are put on your transcript, like GPA and rank. GPA and rank are creative calculations. Hopefully you agree. A good GPA at one school could be mathematically impossible to get at another school. You could have two students with identical GPAs with very different transcripts. So this is why we don't make decisions based on GPAs. We're looking at your transcript to see what you did in light of what your high school profile says you're allowed to do at your school. Now, obviously on the transcript, there are two sides to it. There's course selection and there are grades. And we know as a freshman, you're told much of what you're going to take, but at most schools, as you advance and get more seniority, you're given more choices when it comes to courses. And our expectation is that if you're headed for a school like UVA, that you're gonna look for ways to stretch and challenge yourself when it comes to coursework, while also maintaining good grades. And there's a balance to be struck. It's different for every student. So we don't say you have to take certain courses. We don't say you have to have certain kinds of grades. We want you to have a good conversation with your counselor and your parent about the right mix of classes for you that let you, again, be stretched and challenged while still getting good grades. All right, once we've reviewed the academic story, which is 3 to 3.5 years, depending on when you send us your application, then we move to recommendations and essays. These kind of bring the application to life, because transcripts are data. And then this part is kind of filling in and helping us understand who you were while all that data was coming together. Recommendations, they almost go hand in hand because they're telling us, they're filling in the blanks between the scores and the numbers that are on the transcript. We require 2 recommendations at UVA. One is from your counselor and one is from a teacher of your choice. Counselor recommendations are big picture recommendations. They talk about what's going on overall. A lot of times they clue us into things that are happening at the school or with your class that we wouldn't know by looking at your high school profile. And then your teacher is going to talk about you day to day in the classroom as the work gets done. So these are 2 really good perspectives to have. And by the way, we don't tell you exactly who your teacher needs to be. We tell you it should be someone from an academic discipline, but you decide who you think has some interesting stories to tell. All recommendations are positive. You don't have to worry about that. What makes them different are the anecdotes that come through. So they're going to talk about, the time the discussion went in a good direction because of something you said, or they're going to talk about an assignment you did that went above and beyond what they were expecting. Those are the things that take a recommendation from being pleasant and lovely to being really impactful. So think about who that teacher is. And by the way, all of my friends who are teachers love it when students remind them of things that happened in class. Sometimes it's been a little while since they've taught you, so it's okay to say, by the way, you said that that paper was one of my better ones. Would you mind mentioning that? Or you said that my group's project was the best in the class. Could you mention it? And that can help jog their memory about some of the special things you did while making contributions in the classroom. When it comes to essays, I think this is our favorite part of the application. Obviously, academics come first, but if you are an admission officer, you talk to high school students for half the year, and then the other half of the year, you stare at a computer screen all day. And the essays are the bright spot. They're where you get a connection to the students again. So our goal is to get a sense of your style, of your personality, and understand something that is important to you that's not coming through in the other parts of the application. And I'll give you 3 pieces of advice to tuck away really quickly for when it's time to write these. Number 1, do not overthink the topic. Colleges make prompts that are deliberately broad so that you can go in whatever direction feels right for you. Number 2, do not feel beholden to the technical way that we write essays in school. Not everyone's story fits in the traditional essay format, so you're allowed to deviate from that. And number 3, be very careful about getting advice. It's smart to get advice. In fact, never submit anything this important without getting someone you trust to look it over for you. But when people start chiming in about your writing, you need to pause, you need to think about what makes sense for your style and what doesn't. If you don't like what you're hearing, it's okay to leave it out. And if you like what you're hearing, rework it to fit your style. You are the expert on what a college-bound student sounds like, not people who haven't been college-bound students for many, many years. So trust your instinct when it comes to the tone and the style of this essay. The bar is student who wants to go to college. The bar is not ready to get published in a book or about to be used as an example during a webinar for essays that worked. Those are unusual essays, so don't use them as the standard, all right? Next up, let's talk quickly about activities. I think this has gotten blown a bit out of proportion over the years, and people spend way too much time strategizing about their activity list. In a nutshell, if you put something down, you've done it right. At UVA, we have 989 student organizations on the books. I checked this last week. That is a lot for the number of students that we have. It's a good way of explaining why we value everything we see on an activity list. All of our activities make UVA an interesting place to be. We don't value certain activities over others. So whatever you're involved in, if you're making a contribution in some arena of your life, whether that's at home, at school, in your community, in a job, you are making a contribution that we will value. All right. And also, by the way, something that has come up recently is a lot of students feel like they have to have an explanation if they don't do something all 4 years of high school. So we get people who put down an activity and then they write us a little note to explain why they no longer do soccer. And on our side, we're thinking, well, it's obvious you're a teenager and your interests have changed over time, and that's okay. We don't need you to do something all 4 years. In fact, it's okay, especially if you're taking on a more ambitious course load in your junior and then senior year. It's a sign of maturity if you decide that you need to reshuffle your priorities so that you can get your work done. So don't apologize if you have to step away from an activity or two so that you can perform well in class. And if you haven't had to do that, just know in college you probably will have to do that because everyone tends to sign up for one too many things at the club fair at the beginning of the year. All right, let's quickly talk about testing. So testing's interesting because it's one thing that's standardized in a destandardized process. But this year, we have a big problem. A lot of people can't get access to testing. So we've gone test optional, which means if you don't have an exam to show, or if you don't want to show an exam, you don't have to, all right? Testing is optional. And a good rule of thumb is when something is optional, you share it if you think that it's going to help your case. You share it if you're proud of it. So if you don't have the ability to take a SAT or ACT, stop worrying about it, move on. And if you did take it, but you're not super proud of your score, move on. And if you took them and you're proud of a score, you can self-report it on your application and move on. The only time you have to send an official score report is if you decide to attend UVA. You'll have to send an official report so that we can verify your test scores. Oh, and by the way, we super score. It's just built into our system that everyone gets super scored. Let's quickly talk about some admission statistics. So we get about 40,000 applications. We admit about 9,000 people, but our offer rates are different for in-state and out-of-state because we have an agreement with the Commonwealth of Virginia that 2/3 of our student body will be Virginia residents. Now, let me just also say that Virginia is a pretty interesting state because we have a lot of government and military workers, people in the Foreign Service. So even if someone is from Virginia, they may not actually have spent all their childhood in Virginia. There are people from all over, and some people who maintain residency in Virginia while living abroad because of a parent's job. But anyway, 2/3 of our students will be from Virginia, 1/3 will be from out of state. This means we have two different offer rates. So last year, about 19% of the out-of-state students got an offer of admission, about 39% of the in-state students. This season that we just finished up, those numbers dropped down slightly. We admitted about 15% of the out-of-state students and 33% of the Virginia residents. And by the way, the majority of our students are from public schools. That's the majority of high schools in the country, so that should make sense. And I do just want to point out one thing about these top 10% statistics that you see sometimes. In Virginia, ranking is not very common, and ranking is going away in many places. So when we generate that statistic, it's about 43% of the class. It's not about the majority. All right, let's talk about the timeline. So we have 3 deadlines at UVA. We have early action, early decision, and regular decision. The 2 earlies can sometimes get confusing. So here's how you remember. Early action just means you're acting early, but you have not decided on where you want to go to school. So it means you have time to put together a really wonderful application in the fall, and you want to submit an application early and get a response a little bit early. So those students have a deadline of November 1st, and we get back to them by the middle of February. Early decision is the kind of early program where you have decided you want to go to a school. So you are bound to that school. You're only allowed to pick one school for early decision. The deadline at UVA is also November 1st, but we get back to those students by the middle of December. And then there's regular decision. The deadline for that is January 1st, and we get back to those students by the end of March. Regular decision is great for people who feel like they need a little bit more time to get their application together. At UVA, we read the applications the same way no matter what. So choosing an admission deadline is about when you think you can present your strongest application. Don't think about, will UVA be easier on one group or another? Because we won't be. We'll read the applications the same way no matter what. All right, also I want to mention that we are need blind at UVA. So when we read applications in the admission office, we don't have access to your financial aid application. That goes to the Student Financial Services group. But I do want to mention a few things about how they operate. First of all, they meet 100% of the need that's demonstrated by the financial aid forms, which are the FAFSA and the CSS profile. You submit those to the financial aid office. FAFSA is done electronically by March 1st, and they'll put together a package for you. Again, this is not part of the admission process. We are totally separate offices, all right? And I'm gonna leave you with a really fun picture. This is a favorite from a year ago. We are the only team that I know of that is 2-time defending national champions in basketball, and only playing 1 game. So that was kind of exciting. We're making history left and right, I guess. All right, that's it for my part. I am gonna hand off to Paige from Hillel, and she is gonna talk a little bit about the services that they offer.
Awesome, Janine, thank you so much.
Sure.
So as she had just said, I'm going to talk to you about Hillel and Jewish life on grounds. So UVA, the campus is called Grounds. And again, that's what I want to talk to you all about. So we're starting off, I'm going to talk to you specifically about 3 of the values and how we focus around those. So first, a little bit about Jewish life in general. So we have about 1,000 undergraduate Jewish students. Per year, we see about 70% of the population, so 700 of those Jewish students. So we may not have a huge number of Jewish students, but everyone is fairly involved. We have a really great community, and there's a lot of different ways to get involved that we're going to talk about. So we do have a Hillel There is also a Chabad on the campus, and we do have a really good relationship. Every year we do a program called Shabbat 300 in one of the big ballrooms on grounds, where we bring together 300 students to celebrate Shabbat together. So we have services and then dinner. So it's a program that we do together, even though we do each offer our own programs. There is a synagogue in Charlottesville called CBI. We actually have a lot of students who teach in the religious school. They teach on Sundays and on Wednesdays. And so you could teach Hebrew or Judaic studies if that's something that you maybe have been doing at home. There is also a Jewish studies program at UVA. There's a minor and a major, which includes conversational Hebrew, if that's something that you are interested in. So one of the things that we really focus on with our Hillel is a sense of belonging and being able to really form and build this community. So our events every week really tend to vary. We do have some that are consistent every single week. One of those is called Bagels on the Lawn, and we're outside on the lawn, kind of the main quad area at UVA, and where you can come and just grab a bagel. They're free. There's always staff members there to say hello. We have some students who literally like run and make their bagel on the way to class. And then we have some students who stay for hours just talking and chit-chatting with us. We have students who literally schedule their entire class schedule around Bagels on the Lawn. So it's one of the favorite things that we do, that we offer, and we do it every Wednesday. We also do have Shabbat every Friday. We have Shabbat services and Shabbat dinner. So something that we really strive to do is empower our students in their leadership positions. And so Shabbat services are led by our students. So depending on the student that's leading, sometimes those services may be more reform and have a guitar, and then sometimes they're more conservative. It really just is going to depend on the student who's leading services that day. And then we have different things that are offered by our student leaders in different programs. One of the things around Thanksgiving this year, our students did a second and a third year Friendsgiving. We do have a Jewish women's group that meets once a month. We, every now and then, will have cooking classes. One of our cohorts is called Bubby's Boot Camp, which is one of the pictures on our screen is one of those options. And so every week is just going to look a little bit different. We also do have big special events that can look like Shabbat on the Lawn, where we invite the wider UVA community to celebrate Shabbat with us. It could look like a Hu Mitzvah. One of the UVA things that you will say is go Who's. It's a Wahoo. And so again, having that Hu Mitzvah and a social event, while also doing things like tech study, if that's something that you're interested in. We really have a large variety of programs so that this way you can really see like where your home may be, what aspects. We have a Tikkun Olam group that does community service around grounds and around Charlottesville. So again, it's really finding where you connect and where you connect with your Judaism. We do offer a lot of different things for the high holidays and for Passover. So the high holidays, we always offer dinner before the holiday begins. So we have dinner before our Rosh Hashanah services. Traditionally in the past, we have offered both Reform and conservative services. We are looking to make those into a new kind of combination. But in the past, what we have done is offer two different services that go all the way through the second day. And then Yom Kippur is the same thing. We have a dinner before the fast. We have a whole day worth of services, including Torah study. And then we do have a large 150, 175 person break fast. And then Passover is similar. We offer a Passover Seder that again tends to bring about 150 to 200 students into our space, into our building that I'll talk about in just a second. And the second day of Passover, we always do Passover around grounds. And so this way you could do a Passover Seder with your friends in an apartment, in a dorm. And we really love to be able to provide that option for you so that the second day is maybe something that's a little bit more intimate, with smaller, with maybe a community that you've really come to bond with while at UVA. And then we do offer 2 kosher for Passover meals per day during Passover. This is all free to you. There is no cost associated with this. We have lunch always on ground. So this way in between class, it's closer. If you only have 10 minutes, you can come grab a to-go box, and our dinners are going to be in the Hillel space. So we are very, very fortunate at UVA. We have an 18,000 square foot building. It is broken up into 2 sides. The actual original building was built around 1914. We just finished a renovation on it, and it's now a 24-hour student space This picture in the middle is actually one of my favorite rooms. It is a room that has all whiteboard walls and beanbag chairs. We like to call it our innovation space, so you can think and you can jot down notes. And a lot of times we go in there, there's Hebrew on the wall, there's math on the wall, there's also just notes to each other. And again, that's one of my favorite spaces. And we've got a sunroom, we have a large social hall, a full kosher kitchen. We are a kosher facility. And it's, again, a 24-hour space. We use your student ID to be able to set you up, so that this way you can scan in and get into the building if you want to study, if the library is packed, if you need snacks, or if you just want someplace that maybe has a couch and isn't in a library space. So the next thing that we really love to do and provide is learning opportunities. We have a lot of different cohort-based learning. Our executive director, we are very lucky, is a rabbi. And so he oftentimes will lead what's called our Jewish Learning Fellowship. It's an opportunity for you to explore and learn about Jewish text and make them applicable to your life now, and explore different ways that you can bring that text and that rich Jewish tradition into your life. I offer a leadership development class and taking leadership theory and Jewish values and Jewish texts and really kind of working with you on how to use those as a leader. We have an Israel Learning Fellowship that offers, again, the same kind of cohort learning where you have a chance to learn about all different aspects of Israel. We do go on Birthright Israel trip. It's a free 10-day trip to Israel every winter. One year we may take one bus of 40 students, and then the next year we may take 70 to 80 students in 2 buses. We've kind of seen this pattern emerge where one year is 1 bus, then 1 year is 2. Both myself and then the other staff member on this call, Annie, have staffed these trips. They're a blast. They're really great to go on. And then what we also do is alternative spring break trips. So if you don't necessarily want to go with your friends for spring break, or you don't want to go home right away, we do offer abroad trips. Every other year we go to Germany. It's a program called Germany Close Up, where not only where we talk about the Holocaust and education, but where we also talk about modern Germany and how they have really come to move and work with how they do Holocaust education and how they talk about it in their country. It's a really fantastic trip. We go every other year. And then the off years is somewhere wherever the staff decides that they really want to make an offer. A couple years ago, it was Jamaica and working in a school. And then before, we've also gone to Navajo Nation and have done different community service types of trips. So alternative spring break trips are a really big thing at UVA. And so we're excited to offer those, especially ones that have a Jewish lens. And then something else that we are really passionate about as a staff is your growth as a Jewish individual and your growth as a human being. And so we every year have about 40 student leaders. Those all manifest in different positions. So we have a Jewish Leadership Advisory Board, a group of students that are elected. And then we have engagement interns, program interns, and then a separate group of Israel interns who all have different responsibilities. So our program interns are really responsible for asking you as the student, what do you want? What do you want to see? What do you want to come to? And then building a program from there. Our engagement interns are oftentimes going to ask you to go and meet for coffee and get to know you and hear, again, the same kind of things. What might you be interested in? And what do you want to see with UVA? Where are you right now in your Jewish story? And so we really like to be able to take those opportunities and not only work with our students in professional development, in active listening and talking with each other, or resume development, having all those different conversations, but really working to grow you as a person and make this a space that you feel as though you can come in, and whether it's making Hamantashen, like our students are doing in this picture, or our students who are over here are at our leadership conference that we have every year before school starts, or it may be Shabbat dinner. Whatever that may be, like what we're really hoping is to build a community and really make sure that you feel as though you have that home, Jewish home away from home when you're with us at UVA. So there's something that UVA students will say is Wahuwa. We say Wajuwa, and so that is where I'm going to, excuse me, where I'm going to leave you. And I am actually going to now pass off the presentation to our student speakers, Ariel and Gabby.
Gabby, do you want to go first since you're a 4th year?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I guess I could just talk about my experience as a Jewish student at UVA. I like to say that Hillel at UVA is simply the place that I can feel authentically myself. It's sometimes hard, although we do have a high number of Jewish students, it is only 6 to 8% of the UVA student body. So just like in daily life, sometimes it can feel a bit isolating. But then when I come to the Brody Jewish Center or I just hang out with my Jewish friends, I automatically just feel like I can be myself. I don't have to worry about explaining any part of my identity to anyone new. And it really is a comfortable environment. And also a place, like Paige said, where you can engage with your Jewish identity in college in ways that you didn't even know, whether it's related to social justice or tech study or something like that. And I love being Jewish at UVA. I really didn't expect it to be this amazing. And I've been involved in leadership positions forever, just a testament to how much I love the community and how much I love to give back to all that it's given me. And I really think that UVA is a destination for Jewish students.
Hi, so I'm a rising second year. Just a little bit about me, I guess. I am pre-dental and I'm hoping to apply into the global public health major. A few things that I'm involved in is I was on the track and field team. So I went to UVA as like a recruit, I guess, or as an athlete. And then I'm also involved in Holla for Hunger. I wasn't that much last year since I was really busy, but this upcoming year, I'm hopefully going to be really involved in it. I'm taking like the position of the special sales chair, so I'm excited for that. I'm also involved in like a journalism sports account and the pre-dental society. So I went to Jewish day school my whole life. I went to Epstein in Atlanta and then Weber, if you guys are from Atlanta. So I was used to always being around Jewish people. And going to UVA was obviously very different. It's not that popular of a school to go to as a Jew in Atlanta, or at least none of my friends applied. I guess a few did. But like going there, I didn't at first meet that many Jews, but then as I started getting more involved, I actually did meet more and more, and that was really nice because it made me feel, I guess, more connected. I did take Hebrew first semester. I guess I'm semi-fluent, so I kind of tested into a high class, but it was really nice to take that Hebrew class, even though I didn't have to for the language requirement, just because I met a lot of older girls that were Jewish, and so I'm still close with a bunch of them. It was like a 7-person class, so it wasn't that many people, but it was really nice to like just kind of meet a bunch of girls that way. And then I also did Sinai Scholars, which is a like Sunday night 1.5 hour class at the Chabad House, and it's like first and second years mostly, and you kind of just learn about different topics, and that was really fun because I met a lot of Jews that I didn't know before, but at the same time you get paid at the end, which is really nice. I don't know who the money comes from, but you get paid at the end, so that was really fun. And it was also really interesting because everyone had different Jewish backgrounds. Some people had never done anything, no bar mitzvahs, nothing, whereas I had gone to Jewish day school my whole life and had been to Israel many times. So it was really interesting to learn the same topics with people who have a lot of different backgrounds regarding Judaism. And so I guess for a high schooler, like I was really nervous about the Jewish life because no one that I had known went to UVA. But it's not scary. You'll meet friends. I actually didn't know anyone going in besides like maybe 1 or 2 people. But you'll meet friends and you'll meet Jews and you'll meet non-Jews, but everyone's really welcoming. No one is ever exclusive or anything like that. So yeah.
Hey, Kelly, you're muted.
Okay, so nobody heard me ask everybody to turn their cameras back on. So hi, everybody, welcome back. If everybody can turn their cameras back on, we'll move to the Q&A section. The longer we're on Zoom, I don't know how we haven't learned to unmute ourselves at this point. Thank you guys all so much. That was really informative. For those of you following along at home, please know Janine has answered a number of questions that are kind of admissions related in the Q&A. So once she answers them there, the answers pop up. So please go and check that out for those, and I will ask some other questions that have come in through that have not been answered yet by our panelists. Okay, we're gonna start with Janine. Are you ready? Okay, I'm gonna read you the question. UVA is the first college I've seen on JumpSpark ATL Tour, thanks for tuning in multiple times, that made a distinction between early action and early decision. They said with early action, you get your answers earlier, but it's not binding. With early decision, you know you want to go to this college and you get your answer earlier, but it is binding. And can you clarify early action and early decision?
Yes. So you have it correct. You should also know some schools have even more options. Some schools have less. So there's something else called single choice early action. That means a school is saying, you're not bound to us, but you can only pick one of us. Then there is something called early decision 1 and early decision 2. There are schools that say, you can apply early decision in, say, November, and then you can also apply early decision in maybe January and February. So maybe you weren't ready to commit in the fall, or maybe you had your eye on school A in the fall and things didn't work out with them, but now you're thinking maybe you want to commit to school B, so you can apply early decision during the second round. It is a little confusing, and honestly, this is something that you kind of have to write out in a chart form once you make your college list, just so that you're aware of like who offers what and what the deadlines are, because every school's trying to be really accommodating and offer lots of ways for people to apply. And something you should also be aware of is that sometimes a school might be a little easier during that early decision round, thinking, well, these people really love us and they're going to come, maybe we'll be nicer to them. UVA being a public school, we don't want to give an advantage to someone who can commit up front, because those students don't know their financial aid packages. So as a public school, we just want to make sure that we tell you that we read the same way no matter when you apply. We just offer these different options because they give you different notification dates. You apply when you feel like your application is in its strongest position for UVA, but that advice does not hold true with all schools. So you should talk to your counselor about when the right time is for your application to go into the different schools on your list.
Amazing. Thank you. Follow-up question. What percentage of UVA students were accepted early decision versus early action versus regular decision?
So early decision is brand new at UVA. We only have 1 year of history with it. And if you're into numbers, you know that you could not cite a trend off of 1 year of data. You need several years of data to say, this is what typically happens to early decision students. That being said, on the admission blog, it's called Notes from Peabody. You can just Google UVA admission blog and you'll get there. I always post the admission statistics on decision day for each deadline. So late January, you're going to see a post about early decision statistics from this past year. Late March, you'll see one about regular decision. So take a look at it. But again, remember, the offer rate is not telling you how we read the files. The offer rate isn't telling you anything about the strength of the pool. So UVA, the early action group, tends to be the largest and strongest application group. Our offer rate is a little bit higher for that group. That doesn't mean we were easier kids. It meant that was the strongest application group. There were a lot of admissible people in that group. So don't use admission data to drive your decision about when you're going to apply, at least for UVA.
Great. This is also, it's so great to have you explain it, because I know all these things are very complicated for all the people watching at home. So thank you for taking the time. Okay, I'm going to offer some questions to our Hillel and student representatives. I'm going to give you two. They are different, but I'm going to give them to you together and you can answer them as you would like, and anybody can answer. One is talking about Jewish Greek life at UVA, specifically, yeah, Jewish Greek life, that has come up twice as a question. And then again, twice has come up as a question about anti-Semitic incidents on campus. Again, those are very separate conversations, but I'm gonna offer it out for people to answer those.
I'm gonna go ahead and just pass off if Gabby and Ariel, I actually don't know if you're involved in Greek life, but if Gabby, maybe you wanna talk about Greek life and also just follow up on the kosher question that we had. If you wanna explain some of the stuff you're working on with that, that would be great.
Sure. So I am involved in Greek life at UVA. It is not a Jewish sorority. We actually don't have a Jewish sorority. We do have a Jewish fraternity, AE Pi, and they are majority Jewish. And a lot of my friends are in that fraternity. And I think it's a great community for Jewish male students. I am actually one of a single digit amount of Jews in my sorority. And for that reason, I feel like Hillel has given me the majority of my really strong and close relationships. That's just how I've personally navigated being Jewish at UVA. But that being said, it also really empowers me to represent myself and my identity in Greek life. And usually, like all the time, people are incredibly accepting of me. And I've expressed on multiple occasions just lack of cultural awareness and diversity. I actually became the diversity and cultural awareness co-chair after a couple of years, and have since worked to make Greek life, specifically in my sorority, more inclusive of not just Jewish people, because we're certainly not the only excluded group in Greek life at large. And I think that UVA sororities and sororities are doing a great job at working on that goal. And then the kosher option. So unfortunately, we don't have great kosher food compared to some other schools that have full kosher dining halls. I really wish we did, but I'm sure that's just because we don't have a lot of students that keep kosher. So as the prospective student intern this summer, I'm hoping to create, I'm hoping that by the time I graduate, there will be kosher food to attract more Jewish students to actually apply to UVA, because I know that if we don't have kosher food available, some students are just not even going to apply because they physically cannot come here if they can't eat unless they do vegetarian, which is just inherently exclusive. So I have reached out to the president of the Muslim Student Association, and we are trying. This is very early stage of the project. Only really Annie and some other Hillel staff know about it, but the president of the Muslim Student Association is on board with my idea to create a kosher and halal combined station in the dining hall, because the two dietary restrictions overlap so significantly that I really think that we, with our combined communities and our combined minorities, could create a large enough number to try to encourage UVA to institute such a station. So again, this literally started like maybe a couple weeks ago, but I'm kind of making it my goal that by the time I graduate, there will be kosher, and then in this case also halal food together offered by the time I graduate.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and it's awesome that you are empowered as a student leader to try to make that change and to, you know, create collaboration. It's really exciting. I do want to throw the question back out about anti-Semitism on campus. I'm not sure who wants to take that one.
I'm going to start it and then just follow up. So I'll also share, I was a student at UVA. I graduated in 2019 and I've been working at Hillel since. So I have been at UVA for a couple of the things that have gone on there. I would say, first of all, to start off, in general, this is my experience, but I think it's the experience of many students that overall I felt very, very comfortable and being vocal about my Judaism and sharing it with my non-Jewish friends at UVA. My roommate wasn't Jewish and came to Hillel probably every single week and knows all the prayers now, and she just like loves challah and she eats it on her own time. So in general, I felt like the culture here was very accepting and embracing of it. Obviously, at all schools, unfortunately, there are situations of anti-Semitism. I would say UVA doesn't have a whole lot of it, thankfully. There was obviously what happened in Charlottesville in 2017 was a bit of a tough experience for Jewish students and other minority populations, but I will say that the way that Charlottesville bounced back from that experience and kind of changed a lot of their priorities and changed a lot of the ways that they operated and supported minority communities felt very good as a student. I felt very comforted by it, and UVA addressed it as well. So I would say outright anti-Semitism is not something that I experienced a whole lot, and I think Ariel commented on that she felt pretty comfortable in her Judaism at UVA. But that's probably what I would say about it, just from being a Hillel professional and a student. I don't know if Paige has anything she wants to add on that. But
just one thing, like Ariel had said, I'm actually also from Atlanta. I grew up in Alpharetta. And so I think it's also really different. You are still in the South. And so you may encounter people who have not met a Jewish person before. You may be that first person, I see Ariel nodding, that you may become the person who has to explain a lot of things. You know, UVA students are inquisitive and really are always trying to soak up learning and information. And so a lot of times it may be the situation that like you are that for your roommate may have never met someone who is Jewish before. Or there may be students who are from Long Island who are Jewish, that it's a whole new experience because now they're the only Jewish person in their class, which some of you may already be experiencing from the South. So it is generally a situation that I want to echo Annie, our students feel comfortable on grounds. If there ever is something that happens, we tend to know what that is and can help our students navigate any sort of situation. I know there was a big exam this year that was on Rosh Hashanah, and really we're able to like work with our students and get them to the right people to ask or help navigate through emails on how can I get this rescheduled and what does this look like. So, you know, unfortunately there are times that things are overscheduled over high holidays, but we are a campus that really is very welcoming of people of all different cultures and religions.
And I'll just add one more thing to that, that kind of what Gabby represented with her idea that she's working on and that she's set a goal for herself by the time she graduates. When student leaders, UVA is a very student-oriented and student-governed community, and so when students see something that they're kind of challenged by, like Gabby, and they're like, hey, it would be so great if UVA was more inclusive by having more kosher and halal options for students, they can just decide that they want to do that and find mentors who will help them and work on it, which is kind of the point. So nothing is perfect, but our students, I think in general, feel that they have agency. And our executive director, Jake, went to UVA, he's an alum, and he also has a really good relationship with a lot of the administration. So when things like August 11th and 12th were happening in Charlottesville, I felt very comforted knowing that he had such a good relationship with administration that he could vocalize what was going on and what we were feeling.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Janine, I'm going to throw it back to you. I'm going to give you 2 questions here. And the question that's on the deck for everybody else is Charlottesville a good college town? So everybody know that that's the next question coming to the rest of you. Janine, we had a question about if you were in one school year freshman year and another, and you're starting your sophomore year, do your recommendations need to come from your recent school or from your high school?
So usually you would want someone who has taught you in recent years when you're applying. So when you're a senior, it's not a rule, but most students pick someone who taught them within the last year or so. If you think about it, high school is such a time for growth and development that someone's observations from when you were in 9th grade are a little bit out of date compared to some of the things that that they've seen in the last year or so. But it's not a rule, but we just think it's probably most common to ask someone who has taught you within the last year or so.
Great. Another question for you. Does UVA offer merit scholarships? If so, how is it determined who receives them? And is there anything specific for out-of-state students?
Okay, so first off, we have to define merit. So when people say merit scholarships, they're lumping together 2 different kinds of funds. First of all, there are real scholarships that are put together by groups of people or organizations awarded to students to cover their tuition money. We do have things like that. If you Googled UVA scholarships, you'd get the list of them. Some of them are big, like the Jefferson Scholars Foundation awards full tuition scholarships to about 40 students every year. And then there are small ones that have really kind of specific criteria. Again, they're listed on the website if you Google UVA scholarships. Now, there's another kind of money that people call merit scholarships, and that's tuition discounting. That's when an admission office gets to take money off your bill. So they'll say, we're admitting you and we're giving you X thousand dollars a year. No one's giving you any money. They're giving you a coupon. They're taking money off your tuition rate. UVA does not allow the admission office to do that. So there are real scholarships that are put together by certain organizations and groups, but the admission office is not allowed just to give people money by discounting their tuition.
Again, I'm muted again. Thank you again for clarifying complicated terms. Okay, great. So I'm going to toss this to the students. Is Charlottesville a good college town?
I would say definitely yes. There's a lot of things to do around Charlottesville, and it's like also a really safe place to be. So if you're walking like late from class at night or something, I totally felt safe. There's always people around. And then I remember when I visited, the campus seemed like so big and confusing, but after like being there for even like a few weeks, it totally made sense. It was like my dorm, the classes, and like the college town area. So everything is walkable, like from the farthest part of campus to the other end. Like you can definitely walk. You don't actually need to take the buses, even though they run like every single second of the day. There's a lot of like stores and restaurants, an apple orchard, really good hikes. So I would say yes.
Also, I love the CBI synagogue in Charlottesville, our local synagogue. I was a Hebrew school teacher there in the fall, and that was a really unique way to engage with the local Charlottesville population, which is something that if you're in any college student in a college town, you have to make an effort to actually engage with the local population, and that's something that's really important to me. And I think being Jewish at UVA gives you the exact perfect way to do that. And I had such an amazing experience, and now I'm babysitting for a family from CBI, and it's such an incredible way to really make Charlottesville feel like your home.
Really lovely. Does anybody else want to know anything about Charlottesville as a college town? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I am from northern New Jersey, right outside of New York City, and I thought I would come here for 3 years to help UVA with a very specific project and then head on to a big city, and that was 15 years ago. So this is a place where you have access to all different kinds of food and culture. We have a wonderful music scene. But what's really great is that the size means you actually go and take advantage of it. It's not, when I worked in a large city, people used to say, oh, we have to switch train lines to get there. Like that was some big barrier. And here, you can get places on one bus or trolley or walking or taking a scooter. And so I think students do take advantage of opportunities in a way that maybe I didn't see sometimes when I was at a school in a very large city. So I think it's a great college town, and it's kept me entertained for a really long time.
Something that I love about Charlottesville, I'm a diehard Falcons fan, and they will always let you down. And so being here during like the national championship and during March Madness, it was so exciting. And it's fun to watch because everyone was just all supporting the same team and really excited. You would walk down in like the student area on the corner or go to the downtown mall, and there were balloons everywhere. Everyone is wearing their UVA gear, and that's always really exciting to see, is everyone with their school pride and wearing the UVA shirts or hats or whatever it may be. And so it's just a really great community that's also proud of the school. And so it's really great being someone who lives here and can experience that.
I'm just going to add one more thing, and it's for parents, not for students. I also am going on like Never Leaving Charlottesville, like Dean J over there, but the wine and brewery scene in Charlottesville for parents who are of age, it's the perfect excuse to visit your kid and then also be able to just have a vacation. I've heard a lot of parents say that. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're trying to get your kid to apply to
Okay, great. We have about 5 more minutes. I have 2 more questions. I'm not quite sure the order I want to do them, but Janine, I'm going to throw it back to you. You said you're from Jersey. So here is someone who is from the North and is wondering how they can differentiate themselves as a Northern student, unlike Southern state applicants applying to UVA. So
I think that you have to, I have an unstable internet connection, so here's hoping you can hear me. I think that you have to stay away from thinking that the goal is to differentiate yourself. We're going to admit like 9,000 people. So it's not like every single student has to do something unusual or extraordinary or say something off the wall. And students in their applications are taking normal classes. They're at schools that have AP or IB or dual work. They're going to write about you know, in their essays, they're going to write about an activity or a subject that they love, a family situation. They're not writing about, you know, traveling around the world or doing some groundbreaking research. So I think that if you think the bar is, I need to differentiate myself, it's going to be impossible. Nothing's going to feel like it's good enough. So think about, how do I share things that are really interesting to me? How do I share my voice in a way that's authentic and interesting? And stay away from thinking that you have to grab someone's attention and be totally different from every other student. You can be normal and be admitted to a selective school. You just have to make sure that your application is conveying who you are in a way that's authentic.
Amazing. Thank you, Janine. Janine, there's also a question in the Q&A right now about housing that I think you could probably just answer in answering. But I do want to ask one more question to the whole panel. The question is there pride support? So I would say, I'm going to broaden that question to LGBTQ support, or also just kind of supporting students, mental health support, wellness support. What kind of support systems exist for all kinds of students on campus? I'm not sure who wants to take this one.
I can answer just from like a Hillel perspective. I don't know if then Gabby and Ariel want to kind of go into like UVA services and what they offer. We have a Tikkun Olam organization, and I know this year was their first year doing it, but they attended the Pride Festival in Charlottesville. Charlottesville in general has a lot of events and programs that student groups can go to. I believe that recently, Dean J, maybe you can correct me on this, there's a space that now, there's an LGBTQ center at UVA and a staff person, I think, who assists them. I don't know if you want to confirm that really quick for me.
Yeah, so the Dean of Students office operates a lot of different affinity groups. Something that might be really interesting is to look them up on Instagram. And I would say that about any student organization that interests you. That's also how you know what flavor Challah for Hunger will be next week. You look them up on Instagram. And that's really what I found, is that the students running those accounts also are happy to respond to DMs. So, I mean, obviously we're going into the summer, so you can't expect everyone to be like on their Instagrams all day long. But I found that if you're interested in something, it's really smart to search them out on Instagram. It'll give you kind of a behind the scenes look at what happens with the different groups day in, day out.
Great. I think that's actually a great place to leave this, because I think one of the things that we have heard from people tuning in is how accessible all of our panelists feel. And I think all of our panelists would be happy to answer future questions or direct you to the Instagram account that you should be following to learn about what it is that you want to learn about. But thank you guys all so much for such an informative hour about UVA. I think it sounds amazing, and I hope everybody got their questions answered. There will be a follow-up email to this with information from all of our presenters. You can follow up with them if you are watching along. And there will also be a survey that will go out when we wrap up. Please fill out the survey. It's very quick, just helping us to do this better for you in the future. So I want to thank you again, all of our panelists from UVA. The road trip is in our last week. It's amazing, but we're nearing the end. So let me tell you what's coming up. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. we have the University of Alabama. Wednesday at 5 p.m. is the University of Texas. Thursday at 5 p.m. is Virginia Tech. And then Friday we have a college applications, what to do before the beach, or what to do before you relax this summer for your college applications. And then we will continue through next Tuesday through the end of June, but that's as far out as I'll give you information. So thank you again for everyone for joining us, and I hope to see you again here soon. Have a good night.